What's up, y'all? Welcome to another primary source walkthrough. This time, it's not James Madison. Oh my goodness. But we're still going to talk about James Madison, sort of. No, it's Patrick Henry and his Anti-Federalist argument. So the first thing, before we jump into some context, let me say that if you haven't watched the Federalist 51 video yet, you should watch the Federalist 51 video first before you watch this one. And the reason for that is that some of the context is in that video. Because what we have here is essentially a response, not directly to Federalist 51, but to the Federalist Project in general, which should be very clear from the type of the source being the Anti-Federalist argument. So, if you haven't watched the Federalist 51 video, watch that one first. I think it'll help this one make a bit more sense. But that said, if you've still refused to stop this one and go back, let me be very brief. What we have here is an issue over ratifying the United States Constitution. It's a very controversial document, and not everybody was convinced. Patrick Henry is one of the people who was not convinced of the goodness, let's say, of the United States Constitution, and as a result, he is arguing forcefully against it. Now, this is the same Patrick Henry who said, "Give me liberty or give me death." He is trotted out all the time as one of our great founding fathers, and this, that, and the third, and I think some people forget that he did not like the Constitution, at least as it originally written. Now, he's going to advocate, and he's going to be one of the most fierce advocates for adding the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. That's what eventually gets him to go along with it. But at the outset, he thought that the Constitution was an abomination and wanted nothing to do with it. In fact, he didn't even want to attend the Constitutional Convention, so he thought it was bogus. I see his point. In any case, the crux of the Anti-Federalist argument, as Foner points out in this introduction here, is that Henry was really worried that this new government would fall sway or under the sway of more wealthy Americans. So it privileges the rich. And to that I say, well, I don't know that the Articles of Confederation were any different. But, you know, he has a point. Think about, and I think you can get the sense of this by reading Chapter 7 closely, the abilities of the average citizen to participate in government. So, let's think about a couple things. The only offices at this point that the American people can vote for are the president, vice president, of course, and the U.S. House of Representatives. You know, stay it aside. You know, but at the national level, the Constitution, originally written, says that people, the people, as in we the people, and the House of Representatives. We could not vote for senators. They were to be appointed by the state legislatures. And that would be true until the 20th century. And it's the 17th Amendment to the Constitution that changes that. And now you can vote for senators. For now. There's rumblings in our houses of Congress from one particular party that suggests maybe we shouldn't be voting for senators. The other party has people in it saying abolish the Senate. So the Senate is still a very controversial place. In any case. So, there's that limit. Okay, you don't get to vote for the legislative branch, and that's true now. I mean, think about it. Did you get any say in who is going to fill the Supreme Court seat left open by Ruth Bader Ginsburg? Nope. That for the President and the Senate to decide. The president gets to nominate the person he or she feels is qualified, and then the Senate confirms them. Yeah, you voted for your senators. You got to vote for 2 of them. You voted in the presidential election, I hope, and if you didn't last time, you better be registered to vote and vote this time around. But you don't really have a choice in terms of who is going to be on the Supreme Court. And these are lifetime appointments. Okay, the new nominee, Amy Barrett, is 49 years old. She lives to 100. I mean, that's 51 years on the court. A long time. A long time. And she can retire. But, most of the time, well, like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, man, she was, 87? Beat cancer 4 times? What a hero. Anyway, so, you can't, at this point, you can't vote for your senator. And the legislative branch, or the judicial branch, you have no say in. Now, who gets to vote? Well, number one, you have to be white. Okay? Black people are excluded. And they're excluded because most of them are enslaved. You also have to own property. So you have to be a white man who owns property. Oh, right, yeah. Women can't vote yet. Can't until 1920. So half of the population can't vote because of their sex. Other parts of the population can't vote because of the color of their skin, and other parts of the population can't vote because they don't own property. Added up, only 6% of the American public in these first few decades could vote in national elections. I would say that's not very democratic. And Patrick Henry, I think, is kind of on that line. Now, would he allow everybody the same sorts of privileges and rights? Maybe. Doesn't spell it out here. What he does do, and we're already 8 minutes into this, I apologize, there's somebody outside and my dogs love to bark. So what you are hearing right now is the dulcet tone of our border collie, Joy, and our German shepherd, Mateo. And they're offended that I'm calling them out. Okay, so what his argument boils down to. Listen to that chorus. Oh, it's because the insect man is here. Now, what Patrick Henry's argument is boiling down to here is he's saying, essentially, that we are about to become the thing that we hate the most. Okay, we just divorced ourselves from a mighty empire. And if we form this government and we put it in, then it's going to be exactly the same as what we just escaped from. So what was the point of the revolution? He says such a government is incompatible with the genius of republicanism, representative government. Contrary to Madison, he says there will be no checks, no real balances in this government. What can avail your specious imaginary balances, your rope-dancing, chain-rattling, ridiculous ideal checks and contrivances? Go to the poor man, ask him what he does. He will inform you that he enjoys the fruits of his labor, under his own fig tree, with his wife and children around him in peace and security. He says, I dread the operation of the government on the middling and lower classes of people. It's them I fear for. There's the line. He says, if you put it in, can the individual enjoy the fruits of his own labor? Think back to Crevecoeur here. What makes American American? He enjoys the fruits of his own labor through his hard work. What Henry's kind of saying here is that if we put in this government, we're not going to be Americans anymore. Will we become everything that we hated about Britain? And he says it's confusing. He says, look, is this a federal government? Is it a national government? Because in some ways it seems federal, some ways it seems national. I don't understand. And he says it would be ludicrous. It would be a spectacle. 108 men marching in solemn, farcical procession, mourning the lost liberty. That's what we would have with this ridiculous government. And ultimately, Henry's complaints is really about what power this takes away from the states. The states, he thinks, is the most important thing, because the states should be able to govern themselves. There shouldn't be this national behemoth government. I think he's arguing there should be something to help coordinate, but nothing that has as much power as this constitutional government suggests. And I think that raises an important question for us to consider. What is the United States of America? Is it a nation? A complete and full nation that just happens to be made up of different states? Or it literally just this loose collection of states that has some affiliation with each other? It's an interesting question. And even within states, you could make the same argument about counties. Think about how big Texas is. How much do we in El Paso have in common with the people of Montgomery County over by Houston? How much do we have in common with the people of Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, Braunfels, Plano, Lubbock? It's an interesting question. Yet we all call each other Texans, even though us El Pasoans are a little, I don't know, man. Sometimes I feel like we're more New Mexico than we are Texas. Like New Mexico as in we belong to the state of New Mexico. I think we have more in common with Las Cruces and Albuquerque than we do with Austin or Houston or Beaumont. Beaumont has more in common with Louisiana than anything else. Listen to my angry dogs. They really do not like the bug spray guy. In any case, I apologize. This is the Henry's argument. It's taking power away from the states, that it's not going to protect the middle and poor class. I think he has a point there. I mean, think about who gets to run for the for office in this land and how much money it costs. For example, I know that the 2016 campaign between the two candidates, over $1 billion was spent on the campaign. It's even more in this presidential election in 2020. So you can't be kind of a middle-class person and expect to run for office, high office in this land and be successful. All of our politicians are wealthy people. All of them. Or they will be becoming wealthy. And it's an issue. And it's something we have to address. In any case, I'm going to go take care of my dogs because they stopped barking. And I hope you were able to hear, half what I said. If this becomes untenable, then I will record at some point. But I need to move on to another source. We need to move on to another source. And so we're going to wrap it up here. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Happy to answer them for you. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, have a great rest of your day. I'll see you on the next one.